Hello and welcome to another episode of 9 to Never by Zendrop, the podcast all about entrepreneurship, e-commerce, quitting your 9 to 5, and creating the career of your dreams online. My name is Kennedy, and I am the Chief Marketing Officer here at Zendrop and also the host of this podcast. Today, I got to interview a powerhouse of a Facebook expert, Dylan Pearson. We got into the nitty-gritty about all the different types of marketing tactics that you can use on Facebook, different types of testing methods. We also discussed his rise in the e-commerce space and how he has developed success not only in e-commerce, but also in Facebook advertising. And there's a lot of awesome information in between and tips and tricks for the new e-commerce dropshipper on how to scale and elevate your online business. So if you are ready to hear from the master of Facebook ads himself, stick around and keep listening because you are not going to want to miss this episode. All right, guys. So we have Dylan Pearson here with us today, and he is what I would like to call a Facebook ads guru of sorts. This guy has more knowledge than I can even comprehend on his YouTube channels and his social media. So Dylan, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself and give us, the high level overview of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on. My name is Dylan Pearson. I'm 28. I live in Chicago, Illinois. I run Facebook ads. I own multiple e-commerce businesses, a Facebook ad agency, and I'm now working on some advertising software to help advertisers get result under my company Pondir. And I guess a high level overview, there's so much to the story of like how we got here. I guess kind of figure out how to sum it up. But long story short, I graduated school in 2015, moved to Chicago, got a job as a software developer, and I was working at E-Trade. And although software developer, it's a great position, making good money, just wasn't happy. Like I hated going into work every day. Ever since a young kid, I really wanted to do the entrepreneurship thing. I wanted to start my own business, and e-commerce was really a huge potential to achieve that goal. I read the 4-Hour Workweek back in 2015, and that kind of kickstarted my very first e-commerce brand. I launched a brand called Brain Farm, and I was selling wireless headphones called Brain Pods. And it was before the AirPods, so I like to take credit for that. That was original, but it failed. Like it was a total flop. I private labeled like 500 units. I don't know, invested a few $1,000s, flopped. Like didn't sell much. And so I had another great idea. Let's buy more inventory of a different product and try that same thing. So then I moved into private label watches and private label carbon fiber wallets, kind of like the Ridge wallet. They actually tried to sue me at one point. That's a whole different story. But it failed once again. Like all of those brands were a complete flop. And I really didn't understand why they were failing because I had these great products. I had great price points. I knew they were in demand, but they failed every single time. And so I launched that brand in 2016, all the meanwhile working my corporate job. 2 years later, after a lot of failure, it kind of clicked. I'm like, you know what the missing piece is marketing. Like I need great marketing to back these great products. And so that's when I really took the dive into direct response marketing. Ogilvy on Advertising was the book that really got me started on that. And then from there, just spent a ton of time focusing less on product research and building Shopify stores and optimization, all those like buzzwords, and just focused on pure marketing. And what happened was going into 2019, let's call it December of 2018, I decided I'm like, I know I have the skill set. I feel like I just need to put my back against the wall and make something happen. And so at that time, I decided in February of 2019, I'm going to quit my job. And at this time, I was not making any money from e-commerce. I had lost probably $15,000 to $20,000 trying to get brands started, like emptied my savings at the time. And by the day that I walked into quit my job in February, my e-commerce brand had done like $50,000 that month. Literally from like failing to 50,000, then 100,000 a month, and 150,000 a month, all through advertising, just focusing on learning the aspects of Facebook ads and true direct response marketing. So I quit my job, and it hasn't been all uphill from there. And we can kind of touch, I'm sure we'll get into, drop shipping specifically and some of the pros, some of the cons. But since that point, I've launched multiple brands, found a bit of success with them. We have over 25,000 customers now. So my main brand right now is fully in-house manufactured in the United States. We have fulfillment centers. And we're scaling it pretty rapidly. And along with that, my agency and whatnot. So that was a very, very quick overview of everything, but it's been a heck of a journey to get to this point.
Incredibly detailed, though. I love the elevator pitch. It was a really quality elevator pitch.
I appreciate
Um,
it.
but awesome. I want to dial back to the headphones that you're talking about, the first
Sure.
product that you tried to drop ship or I guess sell online. I
Yeah.
think this is such a good point to touch on for new e-commerce brands, because you had this idea, and it was in your mind, it was an amazing idea, right? These headphones are something that are going to sell so easily, and yet it failed so quickly because you were lacking certain pieces of the business, such as marketing. So when did you decide, I guess, okay, this product is no longer where I'm putting my energy? Because I think with drop shipping specifically, we always run into the issue of I put so much time between Facebook ads and spent so much money on various products, and then they fail. And it's really hard for new drop shippers to let go of them, right? So what was going through your mind when you decided to move on from that first one and try something new?
Yeah. So back then, I feel like one of the biggest ruts that beginners get into and that I really struggled with is this idea of testing products. And so what my mindset was is like, okay, I'll order X amount of units and then I'm going to test these products, launch like some ads. And then, if it doesn't work, then I'll transition onto something else. And I think I finalized that decision of giving up on it after I watched some YouTube video that told me like, if you don't see this in your Facebook ads in the first few weeks, like switch to a different product, which my whole mindset on this is completely different now. In the past 2 years, I've quote unquote only tested probably 6 to 7 products. Whereas back then I was trying to do that nearly every week or every month. But what I do now and what I've kind of realized is that if something's not selling, there's a reason to it. And through advertising, you can collect data, do data analysis, and the data will literally tell you exactly what you need to improve upon to generate the sales. And so when I go into a brand now, I'll launch the ads, but I'm not looking to necessarily generate sales right from the start. I'm looking to collect valuable data. And my mindset now is that I pay Facebook to share data with me, not I pay Facebook to get customers. And so by doing that, I collect this data, perform a bit of data analysis, and then make improvements. And by repeating that cycle, it's gotten to a point where like if you give me something, I can usually get it to sell. I'm not going to say quickly, but like at some point, continuous improvement, it will eventually start selling. And so I think that was my biggest mistake back then is I would get a product, try one ad. Like I recorded this 5-minute long promotional video for these earbuds, and that didn't work as an advertisement. And that's why I gave up on them. When realistically, like looking back and looking at the success that AirPods have had, obviously Apple's a massive brand, but if I would have just taken that same approach with my marketing and been ahead of the game, and you look at like the companies that copied the AirPods, like I think there was like Black Pods or like Black Noir
There's
or
so
something.
many now.
Yeah,
There's
right.
literally the amount of wireless AirPods and we all call them AirPods too, which just speaks to their marketing. We're
Exactly.
like, wireless AirPods.
Exactly. And so I think, I missed out on countless opportunities like that. Like I've seen, like Gabriel Saint Germain. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his videos, but I remember seeing him when he kind of revealed that one of his bigger products was the back straightener. I'm like, I literally tried to sell that in 2016 and I gave up on it because I launched 1 or 2 ads and it failed. And so I switched to a different product. And so I missed out on so many opportunities by not just, making improvements, collecting data and repeating.
So let's go back to the concept that you've only tested about 6 products, you said, in about the past 2 years.
Yeah.
To me, that's unheard of. That is incredible. Congratulations. And I'd
Thanks.
love to know, when you're analyzing this Facebook pixel data, when you're looking at all of the different pieces of the puzzle that might need to be adjusted, what are you noticing the trends are that are causing some of these Facebook campaigns to fail or succeed?
That's a great question. And so one, I guess to preface that and put context around it, Facebook ads are only 50% of the equation. What the other 50% is what happens on the website once the traffic leaves Facebook.
Of
But
course.
when it comes to Facebook ads, I'm always preaching link click through rate because let's say that you have a $40 cost per purchase and your link click through rate's 1%. If you can get that to 2%, your cost per purchase now goes to $20. Your profit doubles. So what I found, and it's not exactly like that in every situation, but the majority of the time, the the data after link click through rate usually follows. So if you can improve link click through rate and get it up to a 3%, and you're still not seeing sales, At that point, I know for a fact it's the website. Like I need to do some analysis on the website. I need to improve the offer, whatever it might be. It's not the ads any longer. But until I get to that 2-3% link click-through rate, it's like I need to keep improving this. So that's really the main key piece of data I look at right from the start, and even while scaling campaigns.
So your overall philosophy is continuing to refine on specific products, knowing full well that anything is sellable online as long as we are advertising them properly.
Exactly. It's all about the marketing angle. There's I'm trying to think of a good example. For let's say like water, like the way that they position water for athletes versus like new mothers, or it's all about the marketing angle. And a lot of times what happens is one of these marketing angles becomes fatigued because everyone's trying to copy one another, and like they'll see a video and they'll all try to do the same thing. Whereas if they just slightly tweak their angle that they're taking with it, it's a fully untapped market. And so it's just a matter of testing and putting in the work and the effort to get that data in your hands.
I think that's such a valuable piece of information, because specifically with drop shipping, or really any e-commerce, because everyone is copying everyone. Let's be real. There's not many original ideas these days. If we're looking at TikTok ads or Facebook ads, we're seeing the same type of advertising and the same narrative told for all of these trending products, right? One of the major trending products on TikTok right now are those purifying shower heads. You know what I'm talking about, with the beads in them? Yep. And every single ad I see is the exact same. And if you could just change that narrative just slightly, you're going to be the ad that goes viral, versus all the other ones are going to stay on the same playing field.
Exactly. And I'm not sure what's the angle that they're taking with that.
It's really simple. It's, if you have bad shower pressure, if you live in an old apartment that, might not have good shower pressure, use this shower head and your shower pressure will change the game. Or, it's something simple like that, but everyone's doing the exact same thing.
And it's like, so for example, in Chicago here, they just announced that it's like 98% of the city has contaminated water. If they launch an ad if someone takes that product, reworks it, makes it more urban or modern, and then launches targeting these cities, and then the hook is like, live in Chicago. Did you know this? Did you know this helps?
You're targeting an entire city.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many ways you could take the narrative. So I think that's valuable information that, you might be wanting to test products with your audiences too, specifically if you have the ability to interchange products like, like you can with Zendrop. But if you're also really dead set on a certain type of product niche, just change the narrative of the ad campaign, or play with it, and then also play with the conversion rate of your store, because both things are super important.
Exactly. That's a great point.
So how did you get your start in really understanding Facebook advertising, or really paid advertising at all?
So I bought a couple courses like back in the day. A couple were valuable. But what it's always come down to personally is just hands-on experience. Okay. Like I need to just dive in and learn as I go along. And that's how it's been my entire life. I know some people are different. They prefer to go step-by-step instruction. Whereas for me, it was just a matter of, failing a lot just to kind of figure out what I was doing wrong. And then you have those moments where things click and you're like, whoa, what was I thinking? But yeah, it was really just a process of countless hours spent trying new things.
All right. I have a potentially stigmatizing question. With the iOS 14 update coming out and it changing the way that Facebook advertising can be done, what are your opinions about it, and what are some strategies you plan on implementing going forward?
Yeah, I have a really kind of odd take on it. Like, I'm actually very happy that iOS is putting this pressure on Facebook. But just because Facebook was monopoly, they're treating advertisers pretty terribly. Support's terrible. I've just had a very bad experience, and I know a lot of the students, a lot of people that on YouTube and comments, I've seen others having terrible experiences as well. And so I think this is really an urge to Facebook to step their game up, treat small business as they should, and treat small advertisers as they should. So I like it in that aspect. So I think we're going to see benefits that come from this. I'm also not too concerned when it comes to e-commerce, because they released the conversions API, which really solves the tracking issues for purchases. And then they also have the aggregated measurement tool, which can essentially replicate it to a high degree. So I don't think we're going to face as many issues as expected. So my opinion is it's a good thing. Facebook was a monopoly in the advertising space, and I think Apple's putting pressure on that.
So are there any specific strategies that you recommend dropshippers or e-commerce store owners implement in the meantime while we're waiting for the infamous Facebook update?
Yeah, so the first thing is definitely get the conversions API set up, tested, make sure it's working. And then the next part would just be connecting things like your data, your email feeds. Like with Klaviyo, you can connect it straight to Facebook ads, just ensuring that you collect as much data as possible. And then the next piece is really just going to be producing the highest quality creative. And that kind of goes into a different subject of where Facebook's going as a whole, Facebook ads as a whole. But with iOS 14, if we are going to be missing certain data points, it's just going to come down to who can produce the best creative that converts.
So let's dive into how Facebook is changing as a whole. I love that point that you were about to make. We were talking about this in a team meeting a few weeks ago about how dropshipping and e-commerce as a business model is so dependent on these paid advertising platforms, and they monopolize the way that we can sell our products. Mm-hmm. So where do you think that strategy and tactic of e-commerce stores is going to go?
Recurring customers, figuring out some sort of a consumable product, not necessarily consumable in terms of eating it, but like water drinking or markers, like you use them and you run out and you have to repurchase. And that's what my current brand is really focused around. We have a 40% returning customer rate, which you don't have to go back on Facebook. So you pay Facebook, to get that upfront customer, but then you just re-engage, reacquire, build community. And I think that's really going to be the key moving forward into the next 5 years is we start to lose data points as they kind of monopolize more and more and things become more expensive. It's just going to be a matter of figuring out how to retain a customer. And with drop shipping, low product quality, bad shipping times, that's not an answer. And so that's really where I see e-commerce going as a whole, is trying to retain customers and build that community around a brand.
I love that point that you're trying to make, because I think the biggest weakness in dropshipping is the fact that we're so dependent on Chinese suppliers. We're so dependent on a lot of unknowns in a country far from where we live. So for the dropshippers that are listening and for the Zendrop users that are listening, how do you recommend creating a recurring brand or more of a brand image from a dropshipping store? Because it is very possible. We've seen many successful dropshippers do it. But what are the key strategies and points that you need to touch on in order to do so?
I guess to dive deeper in that question, take a existing dropshipping store or like launch a new one?
I guess both.
Both. I guess with a new one, it's just going to be a matter of finding, and with an existing one is finding an industry where that's possible, because selling these one-off products, it's great. You can make good money, but there's eventually an end to it. And that's kind of what I was also touching on with my story of, I got out and I quit my job and I started having the success, but then 3 months later, the brand started failing and I didn't know what to do. And it's because I didn't have that true brand presence built. And so now it's much less about finding this winning product, but building brand, building community aspects. And the first part is finding an industry that you can do that within. And I think there's a big misconception with beginners and even more advanced e-commerce entrepreneurs. It's that you have to find this new untapped niche. That's not really, it's not true. What you need to find is an industry where the leading competitors have a lot of weakness. And for my current brand, this industry that we're in has been around since 1920. It's a massive industry. There's tons of competition. But when we looked at the industry as a whole, what we quickly found is that all of the quote unquote brands, their branding was terrible. Their marketing was really weak. They had no brand loyalty programs. They had no true organic content on YouTube or Instagram. And we're like, okay, so if we come in and we do everything in those aspects better than they are, that gives us a real chance to compete. And in the first 12 months, we've scaled it to $3.5 million, 20,000 customers. And we're in talks with acquisition firms now. And so it's been like, that's really where you find those huge, massive opportunities, is look at these big markets that seem very scary, very competitive, but just see what the top players in the space are doing wrong and then do it better than what they're doing.
That's incredible. First of all, congratulations. And
Thanks.
I definitely agree with you. To touch on the point of creating a brand through cohesive design and effective marketing and all of that stuff, because that really is what separates a brand from a one product store or, just a one-off store that looks like it's Chinese made, so to speak.
Exactly.
But what is your opinion on affiliate and influencer marketing? Because something we like to touch on a lot is that's a really great way to build brand loyalty. But I'd love to hear the strategies that you've implemented for that in the past.
Yeah, Kennedy, that's a Great point. That's like one of the biggest keys to building brand presence. And that's one of the biggest things that we're placing a huge emphasis on. One of the biggest strategies going into 2021 is influencers, affiliates, and then exclusive content creators. So we have right now one full-time content creator for our YouTube channel who produces 1 to 2 videos, full-length videos for us per week. That's been huge for our growth because you can also take that content, use it for marketing purposes. And then we also have an influencer program. Right now, we have about around 125 affiliate slash influencers, and we're looking to grow that to 1,000 by the end of 2021. Because you think about it, each time you get an affiliate, you get access to their entire following. 100,000 people, 200,000, and it multiplies. It's really exponential growth. And if you have that great product, you already have that brand loyalty built in. I mean, the potential is just massive. And once again, it all can be used for marketing content as long as you get it in the agreement you have with them.
Yeah, as long as there's agreement in place, as long as the influencer likes your product, they're going to also want to continue speaking about your product because it sells well, because it works well. And you don't have to have some white labeled, perfect, most expensive product on the market to do so. You need to create brand loyalty. For example, we'll go back to this shower head example. I think this is great because I've seen certain influencers market this shower head on TikTok and on Instagram and what have you. And the way they use it is very catered towards whatever their niche is. If they're a beauty influencer, it's good for your skin. If they're a holistic, worldly view influencer, it's good for the environment, what have you. And so now, without you having to do anything at all, there are now multiple narratives about why your product is the best and why your brand is the best. And all you had to do is either front a cost or give an affiliate link.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And even with things like shower heads where they have the beads in them, there's opportunity for the recurring and the recurring customer base there, because if you can find a manufacturer, you put in the time to find someone that can then make those beads interchangeable or add like vitamins to it or add essential oils to it. Now you just expanded your product line. You scaled horizontally. There's different markets you can tap into with that. And that's what we've done with this brand is we've kind of like tweaked small things that were stagnant in this industry. And then boom, you just kind of created your own little niche inside of it.
If anybody's marketing shower heads, we just created a marketing plan for you. You're welcome. Well, let's talk a little bit about your company and how I know that you started it recently in the past 2 years and you're still rapidly growing, but where do you expect it to go? And give our listeners a little bit of background about the message behind why and all of that jazz.
Pondir started out as an advertising agency. And one thing for all of you Facebook advertisers, one thing you're going to realize is that the skill set that you build with Facebook ads is extremely valuable for other businesses as well. And then I started putting out content, and then I had this stream that kind of started of people asking if I could run their ads. And so I slowly started taking on clients. And now we have 7 employees and, multitude of clients, and it's been pretty insane process. But what I've realized, especially with Facebook ads, is everything's moving in the direction of artificial intelligence and algorithms, especially with Facebook ads itself. It's so much less about these Facebook ad hacks of like $5 a day budgets or specific targeting. But what it's about is just producing phenomenal creative and putting it in front of the right person. And so I felt that when it comes to actually running ads, it should be that easy as well. And so what I've slowly transitioned Pondir into, now that I have some capital to work with and some developers on my team and whatnot, is using artificial intelligence to build a toolkit for Facebook advertisers to run successful Facebook ads. With Zendrop, they can build their product, they get their store launched, but then the next part is actually building that marketing. And thinking back to kind of my origin story, that's where I struggled so much. And I understand that the complications and the complexity of getting started. And so my goal, actually we're launching here on May 20th in next month, but over the next couple of years is really to automate the entire Facebook advertising process, perform data analysis, and optimization solely through AI, where you log in, you click a couple buttons, and it's all done for you.
Wow, that is incredible. And it's almost so much to comprehend that I can't even fathom how that's possible.
Good developers. It's
Very, very cool. So where do you see, or what's your goal with Pondir in the long term? Where do you see you guys being in, 5-10 years? It's such a cliche question, but I'm also very interested.
Yeah. In 5 to 10 years, I mean, I want to replace the traditional marketer. Like, I don't know if that's bad to say that I want to take people's jobs, but I don't want to necessarily take people's jobs. There's ideas such as an advertiser, as Dylan. I could log into Pondir. I could create my own rules. So I have all of us advertisers have very specific ways that we run Facebook ads. We shut ads off after we see this or do this after this. And all of those rules can be programmatically created for robots to run for you. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity in the next 5 years for, me or you to log in, create our set of rules, and then still hire on clients onto your own personal Pondir agency.
Pondir is like the agency for agencies almost.
Basically, yeah.
You can copyright that if you'd prefer.
I'll give you royalties, like 10%.
All right,
royalties.
sounds good. I love that idea. So I want to wrap this up by going back to e-commerce. And, you obviously have a lot of expertise in this space and have learned a lot through your process and are clearly wildly successful now. But where do you see the e-commerce and dropshipping space going? Like, what do you think is going to be changing in the next couple of years? And how do you think that e-commerce store owners are going to have to adapt?
So I think the biggest untapped opportunity right now is digital dropshipping. So selling digital products, creating some sort of a digital product, not necessarily like a course or anything, but there's so many digital products that you can create. 99% profit margins, 0-day shipping times. It checks off all of those boxes of like the downsides of ordering from like China or somewhere else, and product quality and quality assurance. Digital dropshipping and just e-commerce in general is really where I see everything moving in the next 5 to 10 years.
How do you see that affecting the way we advertise online?
That's a really good question. I think it's going to become more competitive. It might cost a little more to advertise because everyone has bigger profit margins. So if you have a $50 product, instead of only being able to spend $20 to acquire a customer, you could spend $49.99 and still turn a profit. And so I think while that is an opportunity right now, as it's super untapped, it's a blue ocean. As more people kind of get into this over the next 10 years, advertising costs will continue to rise because people can spend more and more and more. So and with digital, it's kind of tough to find that unique offering and make your product unique. So that's really going to be the key, in my opinion.
I definitely agree with you. I think that's a really cool way of thinking of it. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for coming on with us today. It's so cool talking to you. You're very knowledgeable, and I love your background story and where you're going with your life. And tell our listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, well, Kennedy, thank you so much for having me on. Shout out to Zendrop for having me on. And you can find me, Dylan Pondir on YouTube, Dylan Pondir on Instagram, and then pondir.com. I'll be hanging out there as well.